Like, how did you get into MIT? What was
Yeah,
the
sure.
process?
Short answer is I got rejected a bunch of times and I just kept going. So
This AI automation is going to take over the jobs.
neuroscientists right now, especially at like MIT and even the CSAIL lab at MIT, the Computer Science and AI lab, don't really like talking about that stuff.
So, hey guys, today we have Mike Ferguson from Massachusetts, from MIT. It's a very known university in US. So, yes, we'll start with a quick introduction.
Yeah, cool. So, hello everyone. I'm Mike Ferguson. I'm a machine learning research engineer at MIT. I was hired in May, and I work on something called Brain Score, which we can talk about a little later on. But yeah, so I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Jay.
So, what projects did you do in computer science? Like in India, when you are in the last year, you have to do a project.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like a thesis project almost. And so
Yeah.
yes, I did. We had to do an official thesis project through UVA, and mine was actually a creation of a class, a artificial general intelligence class. So I created a class on AGI and taught it for 3 semesters at UVA to about 150 people, and I was able to use that as my thesis project. They let me use that, so that was my official thesis. My unofficial theses were some undergraduate research stuff I did with brain image processing and machine learning. And I could talk more about that later, but that's the short version.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go to grad school actually, and so again, I'm not sure what the situation is in India, but so I'll just kind of reiterate. But so in America, after you get your undergrad, you can either go get a job in industry, or you can go to grad school. So you can do a master's, or you can do just go straight into a PhD program. And I really just wanted to go straight into a PhD program. And I actually applied to about 8 different places, MIT being one of them. And I got rejected from every single place. So yeah, so that's fun. So I got rejected from every single place. So I kind of had to change gears a little bit and look for a job instead. And then, or I guess fortunately, I was just browsing LinkedIn and I saw an ad for a research software engineer for ML. And I applied, and everyone was very nice to me during the interview process, and I got it, and here I am a few months later. So I was very, very lucky, because this is pretty much the dream job for me. This is exactly what I wanted to do. So short answer is I got rejected a bunch of times, and I just kept going. So
all you need is to keep trying hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So I applied for summer research programs too. So after my junior year, I applied to about 15 summer research programs across all of America, and even in like Oxford and Cambridge too. I applied to some of those. Got rejected for every single one of them except USC was actually kind enough to let me study there for a summer. So I did a research internship last summer in 2020 at USC, Southern California, University of Southern California. And so that was really amazing. But yeah, so that's, I got rejected from, I think I applied for 5 things at MIT in total, and I've got accepted into one of them. So yeah, it's,
But then also you've got at least one.
Yeah, so all you need is one, and so that's the persistence pays thing. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah,
Since I don't have an idea about technology that much, so I know a quote from Stephen Hawking, I think. So like AI would be last or the greatest invention of the human.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess, yeah. Do you want me to comment on that quote?
Sure. As your
Cool,
professional,
definitely. Yeah.
I would love to hear.
As my as my 22-year-old professional opinion. So I think the term AI is such a loaded term, and it's used a lot for it's kind of like the term consciousness. We have a joke in our lab that they don't like talking about consciousness because people just kind of talk past each other because they're talking about 2 different things. So it's a lot the same with AI. And I think the biggest distinction for me, and my background is more AGI, so general intelligence, so something human-like. So think for you sci-fi guys out there, like I am a huge sci-fi guy, so think something like Cortana from the Halo series, or like Ultron or something like that is an AGI, I would say.
Okay.
And so, or like HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. So those classic sci-fi books about like just humanoid robots and like a mind process, basically. And so I think that quote is probably pretty accurate with an AGI. I think there's, for a lot of really in-depth technical reasons that I'm willing to argue, if I was at like a conference or something, I would definitely support that quote. I think it is. and it probably would be one of the last inventions. And as far as an AGI goes, whether or not it's actually attainable is a very debatable point. I believe so. Personally, I believe so, but I don't have the technical knowledge right now to back that up, as far as I couldn't write a paper and be like, yes, I've proved that it's possible. I just have my intuition, if that makes sense. And so after studying AGI for, I guess, 3 years now, that's what I've kind of arrived at. Obviously, it could be changed. But as far as your original quote, so is AI itself going to be the last invention? I think AGI would, but I don't think AI itself will, because it's just such a massive term. Like machine learning is obviously a subset of AI, and so it's a very large term. Like I said, people kind of talk past each other sometimes. But a lot of neuroscientists right now, especially at like MIT and even the CSAIL lab at MIT, the Computer Science and AI lab, don't really like talking about that stuff. And so I found that the newer generation, like 22, 23, 24, we're kind of more open to it, but the older people and the more established people at MIT are a little more reluctant to talk about AGI and super intelligent stuff. But I am all over that stuff. I love it. Yeah.
In which you have mastered it, like
Okay. Yeah, I would say I focus more on computer vision and like convolutional neural networks. CNNs is usually as they're referred to. And so basically, we try to, what our lab does in a very, very high level, is try to make better computer models of the brain, specifically of the ventral stream. So
Okay.
object recognition, when you look at a scene, how do you know it's a fire hydrant? If it's occluded or if it's a little shady or something, how do you know still it's a fire hydrant, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we focus on what's called core object recognition. How do you identify the central thing in a frame? So yeah, that's again, I hope that wasn't too technical, but that's kind of the higher level
No,
answer.
it's okay. Like most of the people in India, they are pursuing computer science engineering on these.
Cool.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
it
Awesome.
would be more add-on value for them
Yeah,
watching
cool.
this.
Yeah. So so it's a huge field. It's absolutely insanely large. And that's really cool. A lot of people in India, I kind of knew that are going towards computer science and engineering, because there's just a huge job shortage in America right now about that. I mean, that's literally machine learning, and if you had a certification and stuff, you would probably get a job. And it's pretty well paid job, I can say. It's and
Yeah,
so like that's a very, very good a major, and that's what a lot of people will tell you is computer science is probably the best major you could do right now. I got to
yeah.
MIT thinking I knew a lot, and then I realized I don't know a lot. So it's always like it's like this constant growth process of how can I
Yeah,
constantly get better and learn things that you wouldn't think apply to what you do, but actually end up having a pretty big well, I guess.
there is a debate that this AI automation is going to take over the jobs.
Gotcha. This
So
automation kind of debate.
yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. So that would be, I would say that's probably one of the biggest issues in artificial intelligence. Again, not AGI per se, but AI definitely. This issue of automation and the workforce and everything. And I think there's a lot more research that needs to be done on like predictive models of how it could affect like India or America or China or any of these large countries that have huge economies like this. Because I think I personally think that it's going to be both good and bad. I think it has the potential to be very misused by a handful of very powerful people. And so as far as like the wealthy and stuff, and so I think it could very drastically widen this wealth gap. But at the same time, it has a huge potential. So I think there's a lot more research that needs to be done in like economics and stuff. And there's a lot of good stuff that's being done to try to figure out what exactly could happen and stuff. We can look at history and the Industrial Revolution and stuff to see how automation's affected it. But this is kind of unique in the sense that we're not really replacing physical labor, we're replacing like mental labor. So AI would be able to do jobs that traditionally would require like a human intellect or mind and stuff. And so that's where it gets kind of tricky. But yeah,
you can say the cost of production of anything can goes down because of the automation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's a pretty uncontroversial term. Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people would agree with that. More of this, because I think it's kind of foolish to think that automation isn't going to take a lot of jobs away. I think it will. But what happens after the fact is I have no idea. I don't know if new jobs will be created. I assume they would be, but I just don't know. But that's another huge field about.
Speaking about the artificial intelligence and the name of Elon Musk, like he's doing a lot of crazy things. So
Sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
right now I just read news, means I read a tweet about him, the AI new Tesla bot. He just
yeah.
said we are just not cars, we are robots,
Sure.
robots with wheels.
Right. And so they look the bot, the humanoid robot, I can say they look pretty cool. I think he nailed the aesthetics of it. I think they
Yeah,
look really cool with like the black glass face and like everything. I think totally something out of sci-fi. I think he nailed it. The neuroscience claims specifically with Neuralink and stuff, I think a lot of neuroscientists and a lot of the people I work with would kind of roll their eyes at the claims that he's made because he just made such broad claims. I personally, I'm kind of mixed on Elon Musk because I like economically, I know like the exploitation and like and stuff is going on, but I really admire his kind of forward thinking mindset and this. I'm a huge Carl Sagan fan, so I see a lot of Carl Sagan's like philosophy in him in the sense that the future of humanity and going forward and stuff, and this far-sighted vision, which I really like. But in the more short-term stuff with like Tesla and SpaceX and stuff, I know there's been a lot of issues with exploitation and overworking and stuff like that. And so there's some weird ethical dilemmas. But overall, I think the humanoid robot, I think he nailed the design of it. I didn't read enough about it to see what he's claiming it could do. But I think it looks really cool. That's what I'm going to say about that. So yeah, and I wish I'd want to get a Tesla eventually. I really like the Cybertruck. I know it's a pretty polarizing vehicle, but I really like it. I think it's really cool. So yeah,
yeah,
eventually I hope to get
it's
one.
cool.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Apart from technical questions,
Mhm.
so how is MIT and how can one expect to get into MIT? Like everyone's
Yeah.
dream is to go into MIT.
Yeah, so I had my like I said, I had my heart set on a PhD from either their EECS, Electrical Engineering Computer Science, which is I would say the more famous of the two compared to BCS, the Brain and Cognitive Science, which is basically their neuroscience program. But it's been really pretty, honestly. Like it's the word I can use to describe it is surreal. I feel like I'm in a movie when I walk through the actual campus and you see the giant dome, you see Killian Court, and you see all this beautiful architecture. It's I went to obviously the University of Virginia, like I'd mentioned, and so UVA is kind of a different feel. It's very colonial. It's very Thomas Jefferson-y, like just colonial, and so the architecture is very very pretty there, but it's just different from Cambridge, from Massachusetts, Boston, all around here. We're right by Harvard. So Harvard's literally 2 stops up the metro there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I personally haven't seen Harvard just because I haven't had the chance. I want to. But MIT has been definitely humbling. It's been definitely, it's just very surreal. Like I walk through the lab, like our corridor and stuff, and I feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie. Like there is a scene in this movie called Transcendence, really cheesy movie, but I really like the visuals. It's like a Johnny Depp movie from like 2014. It's kind of a cheesy movie, but again, the visual is really cool, and that's literally what I felt like when I walked in there for the first time. I was like, I'm like in an AI research lab. This is really cool. So the people there I've met have just been absolutely incredible people. I mean, all around, just every aspect of their life, they try to perfect, like their relationships, their work, their interpersonal skills. And so I can honestly say, like, I'm not at that caliber yet, but I work with the best people that are probably in the world at what they do, and it's very humbling for me because I get to aspire to. I try to be like them, and every day I'm like, I have these fantastic mentors that I'm just ridiculously fortunate to be under, and so yeah, it's very humbling. MIT is honestly a beautiful school. I love it, and so yeah,
Yeah, it's a
that's
top number 1 right now in the
yeah,
world.
I think there's all these weird rankings that sometimes it's one, sometimes it's like six,
It's
sometimes
7,
Caltech is
yeah.
yes, sometimes Caltech is ahead of us, and everyone at MIT is like, what the heck is this? Like, why is Caltech? So it's funny, but there's definitely an MIT Caltech rivalry that I felt while I'm here. But Caltech's obviously a fantastic school. I mean, people like Richard Feynman have worked there. It's I mean, heart of the Manhattan Project kind of thing with nuclear energy and stuff. So obviously, I'm not going to say anything bad about Caltech, but there's definitely a rivalry.